I feel like we needed a smidge of extra dancing with that exciting tech stuff that happened
Yeah,
right before we went
that's what I was about to say. We can keep going, but it's always interesting, the shows when that happens and the shows when it doesn't.
right?
Mm,
Our theme song is actually about 3 minutes and 25 seconds, so we
yeah.
really could dance a little longer if we wanted to.
You wanna dance a little longer right now? What you wanna do, or you wanna go
Oh,
into
it's
it?
okay. I wanna
We
check
could
in with you
play.
because I missed you.
I
How
know.
are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm grateful. I've been working on, keeping the gratitude. We've been working about our non-negotiables, and I've been working on the schedule as everything has been flipping and the logistics have been organized in New Jersey, and I've shortened the list so it's more sustainable, but I still got to keep it on there, So
Mhm.
that's what I've been looking at, making sure I'm writing down my three gratitudes for the day.
Nice.
What about you?
Nice. Yeah, I have so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And, it is spring here in Georgia.
Mhm.
And I know it probably hasn't gotten to you in New Jersey yet,
It
but
has.
oh,
It
it
has.
has? Okay.
Yes, it has.
Well, here we've got some cherry blooms blooming, the tulip magnolias,
Mm,
pollen's trying to take us out, all the
no,
things.
no. No taking out happening. You know how I feel about it.
Right? But we've been having the cycles of thunderstorms and then sunshine as our
Yeah.
plants are getting the rain they need, but
Mhm.
it's been delightful. It has been
Good.
it's been really good and a lot of good stuff going on. So,
I
yeah,
saw
we
this
missed you
little
last week.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk about it. I saw this little flower poking out. The flower is purple poking out under
Mhm.
the dirt, and I thought about you. I took a picture of it. Imma send
Mhm.
it to you.
Oh, send it to me. I'll
Yeah.
send you mine. My dad's daffodils are blooming, so,
Mm,
that's always poignant for me that,
yeah.
plants he gave me
Mhm.
come up year
Mhm.
after year. I just love that, even though he's not, with us physically anymore. It just,
Yeah.
makes me smile, and it makes me always I think about him all the time, but the thing I love about flowers, like, usually I would send him a picture. Like,
Mm,
he loved flowers, and
mm,
so I got to send them to my mom and show her the first daffodils of the season, and
mm.
I'm having conversations with the deer that they need to walk around my yard because 'cause
Mhm.
we're not
Thank
eating
you.
all the flowers like we did
You're
last
not.
year.
Oh,
So,
no. I hear you. I've been thinking about Janet. How is your mom
mhm.
doing?
I think she's doing well.
I
I
hear you.
think she's doing well. She's,
Yeah.
with the nibblings who are now 6 and,
Mm.
keeping her busy and, they're having a good time. They had a random snow in Colorado, like a week like, it was 70 degrees one day and snowing the
Mm.
next, and so, she
Wow.
sent me snow pictures just less than a week
Mhm.
ago, and,
Yeah.
so, their weather's just as nuts as other people's right now, so
Right. Yeah. Mm.
how
Beautiful.
about we do this official intro and kick this show off? Shall we do
Yeah.
it?
Let's do it. Hey, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur, Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best selling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
We like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and
Mhm.
wellness. How do we do it? And we bring on incredible, awesome expert guests to help us
Yeah.
figure it out.
Oh
So,
my goodness. And our guests are so amazing. I
right?
really I don't think that my mind is wrapped around how amazing all of our guests are, and the depth of their resources and how much they help. I literally can't get over it.
Right. It's
Yeah,
so
I
fun.
can't get over it. It is.
Like,
It is. How
I
was last week when I wasn't here? I know you brought it up. I wanted to talk a little more about it.
Oh my gosh. We were talking about escaping quicksand,
Yeah.
and we were talking about organization
Mhm.
of our households and not cleaning, organization, which was different. because yeah, you just got to listen. If you haven't had a
No, you
chance to
do.
listen, it was such
Yeah.
a good conversation, and it was powerful. When you
Mm.
look at our guest, I'm trying to find
I
the
have
book.
it
Hang on.
actually. I got you.
Oh, good. Oh, I got it right here. Lisa.
Yeah,
Woo,
Lisa.
look at that.
You're so good.
Lisa Woodruff, what I loved about her writing was she combined research with practical tips, which is just my yummy sweet spot.
Yeah.
When I wrote the chapter in volume 1, that's
Mhm.
where I was
Mm.
about financial wellness,
Mm.
and I loved. Give me a good 10 steps any day. Like, I
Yeah.
love a checklist. I love a list. But I did feel called out on a couple of them. So you'll have to
Okay.
listen to the show to figure out which ones that
Okay.
I felt called out on. But it was a fun conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm
Mhm.
still learning,
Yeah.
and going to implement some of her resources because they're pretty incredible.
And we usually do not take the time to talk about last week's guest before this week's amazing guest comes on.
Right?
You know, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, not only because we had kind of mentioned it and started talking about it after we came live, but because what we're talking about today, y'all, turning a legacy into a living work of art. Right. And you're probably not going to guess what we're going to talk about today because our guest again today is amazing. So you're not going to guess all the details. You'll have to listen to the whole show. But I love how this ties together because this quicksand, I was telling Christine, y'all, I didn't realize that I was in the quicksand. That's why when I was talking about being overwhelmed and thinking about the different buckets of work that she talks about in her system and in her book, it can be a lot. We've been talking about how much in the world is going on. And when you're holding that, when you're holding stuff with family and stuff with work and business, it can be daunting trying to turn what you want your legacy to be in your artwork into a product in the midst of everything. So, the work has been something that gave me a lot of peace over all this art that we're putting together with our books and our podcast and our content that we're about to come out with. And I'm excited to support our listeners and the information that we give today around it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today we're talking about intellectual wellness, and we could have put our next guest in multiple categories, and I'm excited to have this conversation. So, at Women Connect in Wisdom, we define intellectual wellness as including having the access to different sources of information and developing critical and timely decision making skills. Also, continual learning through intentional intellectual growth, situations, and artistic creativity can help maintain one's intellectual capacity. I don't know if you saw because it's been a couple of weeks, but I wrote an article over on LinkedIn. When I
No,
read
tell me
that out loud, it made me giggle because
about it.
I was laying on my chiropractor's table. This is where my LinkedIn articles always come from. If anybody follows
Nice.
my newsletter on LinkedIn,
Mm,
it's usually because I'm laying there for 10 or 15 minutes after an adjustment, and I'm still. So I all these ideas bubble up. But
mm,
I love the new games on LinkedIn. I don't know if
mhm,
any of our listeners play them. If you do, put in your favorite game and make
mm,
sure we're connected on LinkedIn. So it's kind of, I just read an article this week about how they're positioning themselves kind of like the New York Times. And
mm.
that's a whole nother art side conversation, side
Okay.
quest. But
Yeah.
so I love these LinkedIn games. And so I was thinking about why I love them so much. And I was thinking about interplay because, I teach people about playing, and I have been a board game player since I was a kid, and a card game and a domino game. And,
Mm,
and I start my day with these like intellectual games.
nice.
And when I started doing some of the research, it was,
Mhm,
they're very different. Like crossword puzzles, Sudoku, and things like that are
mhm.
very different than performative play, but our brain needs
Okay.
both of them. Because,
Mm,
like, the first one is about order. It's like
mhm,
about creating an order, and we can, and I was realizing how much I was craving that with everything
mm,
going on in the world and the
mm,
news. Like,
mm.
I completed a Sudoku, right?
Oh, congratulations. Was that your first one you completed?
No, no, no,
Okay.
I've
Oh,
been
it
doing it for
always
years.
feels good.
But you
Good,
know
good,
what I
good.
mean? Like,
Yes.
you start your day with a win. Like, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, it's a win. And
Yeah.
then the performative play and like interplay is more like we don't know what's going to come up with a
Mm-mm.
story or a
Mhm.
dance, or and it's the creativity of the wandering, and then our brain needs both of those kinds of interactions, and especially as adults, because it increases our intellectual capacity. So I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I wrote it a couple of weeks ago. It was, but it made me giggle because we haven't done intellectual wellness since I wrote that, and I'm like, well, that probably bubbled up as part of that, but
Nice.
no.
Nice. And I've been thinking about the chiropractor. I love that you have different places where you can find your stillness and that that's consistent. So I need to see if I'm on if I'm subscribed to your newsletter. If not, I'm gonna go subscribe on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you know,
Yeah, it's a different one than my regular, I, I didn't
I've
even
been seeing your
it's
stuff
the
pop up.
thank you. It's the LinkedIn newsletter.
I
So
got
it's
you.
called Playing with Possibilities. Oh,
Nice. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. I was looking at the I think it was actually a college basketball game last night. Some championship or something. Detroit and
Mhm.
somebody, it was on the TV. Pop was watching, and I was thinking about you and play and the Olympics and what we were talking about. And I said that's probably why sporting events and stuff is so huge. Like even if we're not playing, just the act of watching people play
Mhm.
has been part of culture since there's been culture.
Oh,
Hasn't
yeah.
there been like the minstrel
Oh, yeah.
stories and the gladiators and all this stuff is
Absolutely.
like the same thing.
It's kind of like the mirror neurons,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
And I mean, you think about all of that, and when I
mhm.
think about that, I also think about Sandra Dalton's work,
Yeah,
Women Connect in Wisdom, and her
yeah,
types of rest,
we're
right?
about to talk
So in
about it.
some ways, it can be creative rest
Mhm,
because you're witnessing somebody else's creativity or art form, or I mean, it depends on how you really believe about sports, you know?
mm,
I mean, when I
right,
think about the Olympics, I
mm,
think about, artistry when I think about the Winter Olympics and ice
nice,
dancing and ice skating and
mm,
things like that. And
yummy,
we did talk about the bobsledder from Georgia, but we
hmm,
probably should read our guest bio and bring her up here so we can bring her into this
yeah,
combo.
yeah, y'all, let's talk about some fun and some different industries that we haven't, uh, t I was gonna say, like, dipped our toes into, right? This is gonna be fun. Ksenia J. Merck is an artist, architect, and creative storyteller whose work bridges structure, imagination, and spirit. With over 4 decades leading large scale airport design programs, she's equally at home shaping physical spaces as she is exploring the emotional and cosmic ones through art. Her latest project, Ghost Flower, is a genre blending science fiction novel written by her late husband, William F. Merck II, which Sanya brought to life through her illustrations and posthumous publication. The story and its companion journal reflect her belief in the love that transcends time and in humanity's responsibility to future generations. Help us welcome to the stage, Sanya.
Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you
Hi.
so much, Shannon, Christine. Oh, thank you for so much for that wonderful um, introduction, and I'm so glad to be here with you and your audience.
Absolutely.
We have so much to talk about today. And when Shannon read your bio, of course, I'm going to go down a little side quest real quick before we get back to your latest
Please.
book. But you have been designing airports, and you're an artist and a creative. And I just want to give a shout out because I go through a lot of airports as a speaker and an interplayer. And I want to know, when you design airports, do you design them with the airport art in mind?
Mhm.
Because airport art is one of my favorite things to seek out. It
Mm,
brings me so much joy. So, do you design that part?
So I'm so glad that you said that about the art because that is a very important part. Actually, what I do is I am an architect. That is my background, but I manage other architects and contractors in a program, and a program could be multiple projects. But I will tell you that having art in public places is really very important, and I think that uh, the architecture can be art in itself too. But then to also plan for art in these large scale programs is really very, very important. And I'm fortunate that I've been a part of that for many years here in Orlando. And I love that art and architecture integrate together, because really what we're trying to do is navigate the public safely and securely through the airport. But also, we're creating memorable spaces that reflect our community. And that is really very important. And as here in Orlando, it is our community, but also we've really had a focus of international, local Florida artists, U.S. artists, but international artists as well. So it really expands your view when you're walking through the airport that way.
I love that. Thank you. So you are, first of all, a professional scientist and artist, I would say, as an engineer and a designer, right? As an architect. How is architecture classified?
Well, that's really interesting because it's not really engineering. I've always just looked at it as architecture.
Okay.
So,
I don't know. I think about all those things as being in there. Like
well,
it's
I mean,
so fascinating.
there's so many interests and skill sets that go into
Mhm.
doing that. And when we talk about being a program manager, I mean, now there's so much with IT and security that have to be woven into and taken care of. And then, I've worked with the federal agencies, the U.S. Customs Border Protection and the TSA, and they have their own rule books of security and IT. And so each entity is different. But you have to understand all of that so that you can plan for it and budget for it. And that's where it really gets interesting. So I've been in that for over 4 decades now.
Congratulations.
So, and I would tell you that it's not the years, it's the mileage, because there's a lot that's gone into it.
Right?
A lot more miles than years, I can tell you.
Whew, I like that. It's not the years, it's the mileage.
It's the
Can you
mileage.
can you speak more about that? Right? I was just talking to a team member of mine yesterday about road trips and the 17-hour road trip we took moving from Atlanta up here to the shore in Jersey, right? I would love to go a little bit deeper into your project manager hat and what it looks like to be sustainable for multiple decades, through the different phases of life that you've been in, right? What did it look like for you in that chair to maintain your wellness with control over so many variables and moving pieces on your teams?
Well, I will tell you that, it certainly has varied. And I think that for me, it varied, as you say, throughout my life because I had different life-changing events going on, but also it changed by the type of program that it was, and because each
Mhm.
program may have had different demands.
Right.
And we've had some renovation programs that were very, very demanding. And so, what does
Mhm.
that mean? Well, it means that if you're the traveling public and we're expanding the front of the building, or we're
Right.
taking an area out of service, we do that with a demising wall. So, we're working behind the scenes. So, there
Mhm.
is some core work that is happening during the day. But when we did those renovation programs, full night shift, full third shift. And
Mm.
that's where we're doing, huge work. There's special lighting, special security, night shift teams that are different from the day shift teams. There has to be this handoff of the baton in the morning to the day shift. And, you know, I will tell you, some nights I was either out there or I'm on the phone, you know, hearing about the different activities that are going on. And then you got to be
Right.
ready to go the next morning.
Oof, that
And
close to open is
the
no
morning
joke.
would start with, reading the inspector's reports of things that happened in the night shift. So we would know what was up on the deck for the day. And if
Mhm.
anything affected the airlines in the morning, that is all hands on deck. That is
Mhm.
all hands on deck. So, renovation programs and dealing with federal agencies,
Yeah.
it's that they have requirements, and it's important that to respect that, but then to do what you can to make things happen the right way. So, it takes a lot of, when I talk about mileage, it's certainly those hours, but it's also the discretionary time that's put in to these programs, to really have them come together, and that's working with many, many different teams. And so that's what I mean by that.
So I appreciate how thorough your answer was. I want to go a little deeper into Ksenia. When
Mm-hmm.
Ksenia was up overnight, had to go in whatever time opening was, what did you do for yourself to balance the workload and the fluctuations based on the season? Because I think a lot of times we're great at explaining the checklist, the teams, and all the iterations of the stuff that we did. But even though the women are good at learning the book, we still have the stress of the unseen labor and not always taking the best care of ourselves, right? So you having a love that was on fire and all this stuff outside of work, how did you do that in the midst of these things changing?
For me, I have to really have time to decompress. I have got to have um, that time alone, or that quiet time, typically in the morning with my coffee. And I have got to have that. I've got to have that to reclaim my person. And if I'm just sitting in my chair looking at the flowers in the garden and watching the squirrel eat the hibiscus,
Hmm.
you know, I
Hmm.
am doing it. And that it gets me connected with the nature, which I love, and that
Right.
takes me to a different place that's away from, reading those inspectors reports or worrying about, any one of those stakeholders, because they're all my
Right.
children. So,
Hmm.
when I'm looking at that nature, I'm on the weekends working in the garden. That's how I reclaim my person.
I understand.
Well, and I want to transition our conversation from your professional work to your creative work and how you made that leap. Because in the midst of this full time job that you're still holding and are just an incredible boss at, like
Hmm.
I wanted to say something else, but
You saw my face.
you,
Yeah.
I can be
like,
demanding. I can be
no,
demanding.
I meant like just a bad.
That's
I'm
what we were
like,
gonna
you
say.
are
Yeah.
right. You are awesome.
Hmm.
And so, in the midst of this, you're also a creative storyteller, and you're doing your artwork to illustrate your late husband's writing in manuscript. So, tell our listeners about that. How you're using art to deal with grief.
Well, the plan all along was that I would paint the cover of my husband's third book, a novel, Ghost Flower. And when he was in the hospital, he had certain ideas and he sketched out some things. I was so excited because it was like, I felt like we might turn for the better and come out of the hospital, but we didn't. He passed over. But, um, he wanted the book published and I wanted to do it. I was excited about doing it. I feel that we have a soul contract for me to do this work, which I love. And it took me some time because I was backed up administratively. But once I got into the book, and I couldn't find his sketch, but I knew what he wanted because I was there when he drew it. We talked about it. Once I got into the book and I was answering the editor's comments, um, I was charged up. I was charged up. I was doing my day job, and every night I came home, I was doing the book. And by that first Saturday, I made a big pot of coffee. I had my notes ready to go. I met with the editor. We had a fantastic call. And right after that, I knew different things that I wanted to paint and sketch. And I was like lit up. I locked the front door. I pulled all my paints to the dining room table and I went after it the entire weekend. And by that Monday night, and I'm, an older in the industry, so I'm not doing this on the computer. I'm doing my little paintings, my vignettes, and I was on the copy machine, enlarging them, scaling them back. I did my own mock-up of the cover. And I know Bill was here while I was doing that, and I felt so connected to him. And that was really the start of getting so absorbed in the art that I went to a different place creatively, and I was connecting with him, and I really felt like he was just right here, standing here right next to me. That Monday night, I was so tired. I did my day job. I was still that evening working on the cover, and at midnight I'm in the bed and I'm laying there, and I hear him say to me, "Let's go out there and do another couple passes at this." So I get up.
You're like, I'm sleeping here, sir. I'm sleeping.
I go out to the dining room table and I'm moving the different components around. And when I put the spaceship in the very center, we were done. We were done. That was it. We were done. That's how we did the cover. Has been with me here every step of the way. And then I started doing some other paintings. I started doing little vignette sketches for each chapter. And then those progressed. They progressed into things that were more involved. So then I had to go back to the earlier ones, and redo those so that the family of sketches would really look consistent. And so then in doing those sketches, how they were positioned in the book were for the chapters, but I was weaving in different clues about the story into those sketches, and I was tying those sketches together. So that's how the idea came for the journal, the companion journal, that the sketches were organized how I would organize them together, but I tied those sketches to the chapters and then pulled out some of the philosophical and spiritual questions in the book. So it really becomes a companion journal to, if you're in a book club and want to discuss some of these spiritual and philosophical issues. It's just such a framework to do that. But also the sketches, I give a little snippet about what inspired me to do the sketch. So it's really kind of like more personal insider information that, is also included in that. So this project is really, it's Bill and I together in a collaboration, and that's why I love it, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah,
I love that.
And I love how the story is also part of it is based in time. And so it makes sense that the ship would be in the middle. I listened to a little bit of it talking about the audio, right? So y'all, the audio book is out, right? You go to Amazon, you can listen to the sample of it.
Yes.
And I want to know what happens. Yeah, I want to know what happens with this virus, So I love seeing the collaboration of the two of you and how you brought this to fruition.
Thank you. I want to say there are so many themes in the book. As you mentioned earlier, the whole purpose of the book is saving humanity in the future. And this team from the future has to do time travel to 1585, the time of Shakespeare, to plant clues about this mysterious flower that was brought to the Earth thousands of years prior to by aliens that came in that spaceship, that center element. And so many themes in the book about saving humanity, but there's also Bill wove in themes from his first two books on leadership and Breadcrumbs Finding a Philosophy of Life. Those themes are within there. Promoting women in leadership roles is in this book, and that was something Bill did in his career. And so he wove these aspects in because they were so important to him, and that's how he operated as a leader. And and for me to do the audio, it's just another way of me really hearing his voice. And that was really a great experience for me. But I love it that when you mentioned early on about being an entrepreneur, and certainly in my day job as an architect, I have been an entrepreneur. I have supported other entrepreneurs. But this book business is entrepreneurial too. So I'm in two different entrepreneurial worlds. And I will tell you that I really do think that this direction with the Merck II press, the book business, and the creative side has actually helped me in the creative thinking in my day job. And so each one is playing and helping the other. So I really am, I think, using the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain. And I think this is where the growth for me is happening right now.
Oh, I know that to be true, Sanya. Like the new scientific field of neuroarts. I don't know if you've done any reading about it, but there's a book called Your Brain on Art. And I'll
Hmm.
look up the authors of it, but I follow them on LinkedIn and they've been doing a lot of research about this topic and how really it does impact our intellectual wellness when we pull in the arts. And you don't have to be good at it. Like, this is what sometimes people think, because, they see us as authors or published artists or things like, and they're like, oh, I couldn't do that. It's not about your product. It's about the process. It's
Mm-hmm.
about, as I listen to you and you being an incredible project manager as an architect, you're also an incredible project manager as an illustrator and an author, and like, all of that weaves in together.
There we go with that mileage again.
Right? The mileage. So, what was the most surprising part? You're doing this work, and what surprised you out of what you saw that tied together with what you've been used to doing?
Um, well, I think that I'm really probably one of the most interesting things is that this project, the Ghost Flower project itself, as I look at it, I was in it, doing it, but now as I come back and I look at that, I feel that that was this overarching plan as a way for me to help to heal through this grieving process, which is brutal.
Yes.
And so this whole project was a is has been I've been on this spiritual journey of healing too. Certainly the art has been very healing to do, but the whole project itself. And it's really interesting for me to look at it that way. You know what I mean? Because it's like that
Yes.
was all I feel like there was all a grand plan for me to do that. And with my purpose going forward, really to help people,
Mhm.
just as Bill was doing in his writing. So it it just seems like a natural path right now.
Beautiful. And what I love about what I didn't think about before when we had talked that just registered is, his work with the breadcrumbs and the things that happen when we're younger and the ways that we get hurt and the places, the ages that we are in these
Mm-hmm.
different situations, right? And now you doing his work posthumously. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I struggle with that word too. I think it's
Okay.
posthumously, or it's a
Okay.
it's
I
a
feel like
tough
I've heard
word.
it.
It is a
Okay.
tough word.
I'm gonna look it up after the podcast,
Okay.
but you know what I'm talking about,
Yes, I
right?
Well,
do.
y'all, we're from the South, so we say words a little differently
And
sometimes.
I like to do what I want sometimes, so
Right?
it's like I can't let go of the South, but I hear what you're saying, that it's interesting how those two things are in this journey of y'all's
Mm-hmm.
work together, so I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, let's see.
Before
We
we move on, I want to shout out the
mm,
authors, Susan Maximin and Ivy Ross. They're the authors of Your Brain on Art, How Art Transforms Us. And
mm,
they've been some of the leaders of this new research around neural arts and really like things that artists already know. It's
Mhm.
like they're doing the research and science that backs up things we already know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
when
Mm-hmm.
you've been in the process. So it's really cool.
Yeah. And what I can say to it that I was talking to the high schoolers about one year when I went, I think it was the year I went for Black History Month. And they hadn't done a Black History program for like 13 years. I think literally since I was in high school, actually, that's what it was that year. And I was telling the students how much band helped I feel like save my life, right? With the breathing exercises, being able to play and practice and sight read and do all this stuff through my dad's cancer diagnosis and him getting his stomach removed is a huge thing, right? You being able to anchor yourself and say, okay, right now it's none of that stuff. It's just the music. And if I'm tapping my foot on, are my placements correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Like Sanya, you were talking about being able to jump between the different sides of your brain to give some relief, I think
Mm-hmm.
helps us show up more fully when we are present in whatever we're doing next.
I think so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Um,
I forgot to ask you earlier, what medium are you doing the illustrations? Were you in watercolor or oil or acrylics? What were you doing?
it was a mixture. I did several charcoal sketches,
Mm.
some pen and ink with pencil, um, some mixture, watercolors and gouache. So
Mm.
What
I
is
was really,
what is
I was
gouache?
gouache is like a thick watercolor. It's more opaque.
Mm,
So I was using that and watercolors for more of the cover paintings. And then then I did a whole series. I started doing these background paintings, and with the hot pink and the blue and the gold. And then now we're using those. We've used those as the backgrounds on some of the pages on our website. And so it's so interesting because I started doing these, and the initial background for the book, I did several background paintings, but the one that is on the cover, I actually did with my hands. I
mm,
actually did the waves with my hands for the sailboat that collage is on the cover of the book, because
beautiful. And
I wanted to feel it. So I had it on the floor in my dining room, and it was such a great experience. And I think the reason the art was so healing was because I was into it in that moment, really focusing and concentrating on that. And I think I was connecting with Bill, and that was just a different, that time was so special. And I
yeah.
wasn't, and other things were blocked out. So
Mm,
that wasn't a time of focus. And it, for me, I have to be rested to be able to do that. So this is where I've been working on getting sleep. And
mhm.
so that was a big challenge for me, especially after Bill passed, because I was sleep deprived. And but so I've really had to make a concentrated focus on getting good sleep.
Yes. And are you
That's
speaking about
important.
recently or in between the different pieces that you were working on, or both?
uh, just since we were in the hospital, that hospital stay, both
Mm,
Bill and we were not sleeping, and we both had PTSD. It was, and so after that, I was still having, after he passed, I was still having problems sleeping. And so that was a real focus to try to get good sleep. And so I am a night owl. I, I've always been a night owl, but I've having to make myself be more disciplined about
right.
getting good sleep,
Mhm.
and it's made a huge difference for me.
Good. What difference do you see that came up when you started being better at it?
I'm not as cranky for one.
Ooh, hey,
That's some truth.
I can get
That
so
is some
tight.
truth.
Yeah, I
Now people
understand.
that I work with may say, "Hey, she can be pretty
She's still
demanding." Well, I
cranky.
can, but I feel like I'm not as much on the edge.
Mm,
I'm not as, on the edge as I was for many years.
Hmm.
Mm.
And maybe we go here because this is the second time you've brought it up. What's your definition of demanding? Because I think I would be okay with it. What's your definition?
Well, I think really, in large part, accountability. Um,
Okay.
if people say they're going to do something, I'm going to be following up to say, hey, I need your stuff. We
Thank
need
you
we
so
need
much.
this, and there's a
Yes.
reason we need it because we need to keep everything going. And that's whether it's our own owner's rep team or a designer or a contractor. It's really following up and having everybody be the follow through and the accountability. I mean, that's the only way that it's going to come together because it takes all of those parts and pieces to come together.
Mm. So, and it's so interesting that you say that because it sounds simple, but what I've seen is that a lot of people struggle with it. The management team struggle with it. Anybody who's supposed to be holding standard operating procedures, you know what I mean? I see leaders struggle with having those conversations because of the feedback. Like you're saying, oh, I'm demanding, oh, this. But the way that I see it is if we're doing something as a team or we have, let's say, a handbook, right? That is you honoring what we said we were going to do. My
Mm-hmm.
team signed on to a job. You said you would get XY benefits and you would get paid. All this stuff would happen, but all this other stuff is going to happen too. And just like if a check was missing, you want me to follow up, I'm going to follow up on the other side. And it's to make sure everything is
Mm-hmm.
running smoothly. How do you position yourself in the confidence or readiness to get ready for those types of conversations? I think our listeners would benefit from how you do that so many times.
How do I do it? Well,
Yes.
uh, I like to come to meetings prepared,
Mhm.
um, with at least three things that we want to accomplish every meeting. And now I'm starting to basically start the meeting saying, here are the three things we're going to accomplish. We're going to talk about these three things because some projects don't have the luxury of time. And
Mhm.
so, you need to hit these points and we need to make sure we capture these before you can go on to the next set of points.
Mhm.
So it's to me it's you got to hit the priority items
Mhm.
and then you keep chipping away.
So can we talk a little bit there? Because whether it's relationally and romantic relationships, right? And women saying what they want, saying what you need. I hear you on being prepared helps keep that
Mm-hmm.
concise in front of mind for you. How do you position yourself in your confidence to ask your team for what you want to see? Because I think that's somewhere that's how leaders sometimes drop the ball and it's hard for them to follow up because they weren't clear at the beginning. And now it's all this stuff that you're mad about when if you would have said XYZ, you could follow up on XYZ. So how do you think about that? Asking for what you
Well,
want from your
uh,
team.
to me, I mean, I'm very direct. So,
Mhm.
I'm not. I mean, we're there to do a job. Period. And so here's our mission. Here's what we've got to do. And I'm just very direct from the beginning. So, and I feel like I'm a pretty clear communicator.
Mhm.
So I try to not leave the door open for a lot of this. Well, we can do it later. No,
Mhm.
no, 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 no. And we meet routinely. There are weekly meetings with the same topic, and we're
Mhm.
going to tool it up from the last time. Did you do those things you said you were going to do last week? Where are
Yeah.
they? Are they due? You said you were going to do them today. Are they done?
Mhm.
I mean, these are just if you say you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so I mean, if you're not going to do it, don't tell me that you're gonna and you're going to go,
Yeah.
because I can help prioritize these things too. You know.
Mhm. Yeah. And
A
it
woman of many skills. I love
right?
it.
And it reminds me of your support of your husband. When I think about the last 5 years, and we've been talking a lot about grief and the different losses that we've had in the last 5 years. For me, when I think about my ladies that I miss, I say, dang, she didn't get married. She didn't get that house she wanted. And we know the things that they wanted. And so for you to know the book that your husband wanted and for you to publish it, I see that same fire of, hey, what did we say we're going to do? Like, we're going to materialize that. And just like
Mm-hmm.
I not complete, but complements you in the relationship, right? Your companion journal complements his work in addition to what you
Yes.
did.
And
Mm,
and I really, that journal to me was so important to do because it really made the set. And
yeah.
it was that our collaboration in that project, which he still, Bill's right here. I'm actually sitting at his desk,
Mm,
and I've got his pictures around me.
mhm.
The picture behind me, if you can see it, is
Yeah, we can see it.
it's the Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany.
Mm,
He took that picture and we blew it up, and so that's here, and that was, he had to go on this. It was called Mary's Bridge,
mm,
and it was a little rickety.
okay.
I wasn't going on that. He went out there to
Mhm.
get that picture because that was the
Nice.
angle to get that photo.
It is. It's
Um,
the angle.
It's
and
stunning.
I think
How do
that
you say
that's the
it?
castle. That's the castle that Disney modeled the Magic Kingdom after.
I can see that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And how do you say it?
and
Neufeinstein?
Neuschwanstein.
Neufeinstein. Okay. What else were you about to say?
I was just going to say earlier, I had put up your website
Mhm.
for Merck Press, and that will be in our show notes for folks who are listening, because I want to highly recommend that people go and check it out. I mean, the book cover is awesome. The books are
Mhm.
awesome. The companion, I'm looking at the artwork you've put up on your website behind all the amazing testimonials. It's just it's a treat. It's a
Yeah, it
Well,
treat
is.
good.
for folks' eyes. And I just want to, we know how big of a deal it is to publish
Yes.
books, to get it out there, and it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
you're also, you said before the show, you're in the process of narrating the So You Want to Be a Leader book?
Yes,
Hmm.
it is just about ready to be published also and available soon on Amazon. It's just about ready to go. So that, you know, just to say again, that experience on narrating that book, there were leadership things in there that I could again hear Bill's voice, and literally some of the things in that book, literally 2 weeks later, I was having to use and do in my day job.
Wow.
Unbelievable,
Hmm.
unbelievable, but so good. And again, I felt like it was just laid out here, planned for me to do.
Beautiful. And I'm glad that you were able to take the space and get the rest so you had the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So every week we talk about a wisdom in action. And this is kind of what I've been asking you throughout the show, like where you were in different times, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for this week, for your, what dimension are we on, Lord? It's,
Intellectual wellness.
thank you. Thank you, Christine. For your intellectual wellness, Sanya, what are you being intentional about?
Um, this week and this whole month of March is really a tough month for me because this is the month that Bill passed. So this weekend in particular, I'm
Mhm.
going to be doing some playful artwork. I'm going to just do something playful. I need to do that. I'm going to be sitting in my chair, drinking the coffee, watching the ducks and the animals in the backyard. But I'm going to do some playful artwork on Saturday. I just need to do that, and
Right.
that
Mm,
helps me get some balance.
I hear you.
But it's good to
I hear
have these conversations and then do the art and do the project manager role. But I think these conversations are really important because it helps crystallize what you're doing and what you're needing, because
Mhm.
sometimes
mhm,
unless we really talk about it, sometimes we don't know what we need. And
mhm.
to me, that's really important.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I hear you about it being a tough month.
What about you?
And
Yeah.
before we transition, I just want you to say his name for our audience again. And, I know Bill has been present in this conversation, but will you
Yes.
say his full name again for us?
Yes, it's William F. Merck II.
Mhm.
And our website is Merck II Press. It's merckiipress.com. And you'll find a lot of little goodies there.
Oh, so
Thank
fun.
you.
My wisdom in action, I liked what you said, and I think mine would be hashtag create more. That,
Mhm.
you know, I got a lot going on like right now and a lot I'm juggling, and I've been doing a lot of detail work because in
Mm-hmm.
Interplay, we have a leaders gathering coming up that I've been the project manager for, and that kicks off tomorrow. And so I'm going to create more and interplay more, honestly, because I'm going to be at that gathering and I'm going to let my thinky brain relax and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
it because it's been a lot of details, a lot of getting to this point, and
Mm-hmm.
it's time to just relax into it. What about you, Shannon?
Yes, I have a couple of things that I hashtag based on our conversation. I'll go ahead and share, right? And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
let you know what my wisdom in action is. So we were talking about, actually, I'll do the wisdom in action first, is my hashtag decompress time.
Mm,
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also had hashtag reclaim, hashtag connect to nature. And I love how you were saying earlier, Sania, the quiet time in the morning. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all, I'll put all of that under that decompress time. I've been
Yes.
working on what the routine is as I, get settled into these logistics. Okay, what does it mean to decompress in this
Mm-hmm.
season with these projects? Like you're saying, because it is different based on the projects and the seasons. So I want to be relevant, so sustainable. And I was thinking about us and Women Connected in Wisdom on our break. I went outside and put my feet on the grass, thinking about, our sister Cecile Armstrong, and that was part of my decompress time for today. So that's what I'm working on to
Mm-hmm.
make sure my intellectual wellness is grounded and centered. Yeah.
Good.
right.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was in a space earlier with a bunch of artists and creators and
Yeah.
folks that are holding down a lot of organizations, and one of them had gone through a big grief and loss after losing their partner, and we were talking about the power of rest, and we were talking about, she said, I rested and my brain came back online because I was in such
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
deep grief that
mhm.
my brain was not functioning.
It
And after, yeah, as we know, right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
it grieving is just absolutely exhausting. It's
Mhm.
exhausting.
Yep,
Um.
And
it's true.
I genuinely feel like your mind goes to a certain place. I think
Mm-hmm.
and not that it's the same for everybody, but I don't want to call it grief mind, but it's a whole thing where something happens and your capacity is stretched in a way that it's not stretched in other seasons or in other tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I definitely hear what you were saying about not being able to sleep, the PTSD, we thought it was
Mhm.
this and it's something else, is it does something unique.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Sanya, this has been such a yummy conversation. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom as a
Yes.
female architect. Thank you for your artistry. Thank you for your authorship. Like, I just love having this and how you weave it all in together. And
Yeah.
just, we are grateful for your work and the creativity that you're putting out in the world.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Christine and Shannon. It's just this conversation with you is very inspiring for me. It's very
Mm,
inspiring for me to be able to share this and talk with you about it and have this conversation with like-minded people is
Mhm.
really I'm so grateful for it. So thank you for this opportunity.
You're
absolutely.
most welcome, and thank you, Bill. Thank you,
Yes.
Thank you,
Bill, for the
Bill. Thank you,
original
Bill.
manuscript and for the
Mhm.
guidance of the spaceship and
Yeah.
all the things.
Yes.
And we wish you ease and grace and
Mm.
just tenderness as you go through this month, especially.
Yeah,
And
this weekend,
Thank you.
we'll
Saturday.
be thinking about you.
And I want you to know too, you were talking about being on the floor and making this artwork with your hands.
Hmm.
The cover does live rent free in my brain. I can see the blue. I still see
Mm,
it from the first time you showed it to me. So
mhm,
thank you so much for your bravery.
mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my
Mm,
gosh, so good to be connected. I know
yeah.
you could have a whole nother hour with her about project management. I saw you just light up. You're like, oh, yes,
You know,
accountability.
because so many people, because we've been having this conversation, right, about
Right?
talking, and we said
Right?
how healing talking can be when you crystallize what's next. And that's what we had
Right?
just shared on another show. Like, what's the next best thing? But reading Lisa's book about the quicksand
Mhm.
and reminding women in her book that they are leaders in the home and that you are project, not project managing, but you are.
Household managers.
Thank you. Household managers is
Yep.
how she said it. Um, that's a whole capacity, and a lot of times we discount that. And so that's why I wanted to speak to it so our listeners know, like, you're not crazy. Accountability is necessary. If they call
Right?
you demanding, remember that is nailed in love, care, and consistency. And sometimes we just have to get people used to it because they're not used to it.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
Sanya just is impressive as heck
I
doing
know.
that work
I
and
know.
the creativity. I mean, we know what it takes to get a book out, right?
Yeah, we
And
do.
she's doing large scale I just
I
woo,
know.
woo.
She's blowing
I
up the
love
pictures, making them smaller, all
I
this
love
stuff,
it.
but,
I
you
loved
know
everything about it.
yeah.
So Shannon, any shout outs we need to give before we
Oh,
wrap episode 221?
and we have this shout out for the book, so next week, y'all, doors are supposed to close. We're talking about volume 3 again.
But we
There's
have
diff
2 weeks for that, friend.
We have 2
Next,
weeks
we have 2 weeks. The doors close on March 31st unless we
at the end
fill
of the
up
month,
because we've got
right?
a lot of people interested. So we could fill up before then.
But
Um,
next week is the class. Am I correct on
yes,
that? Okay.
yes.
So
March
can you
18th.
tell our listeners? Yeah.
Yeah, March 18th, we are doing another question and answer, Why Become a Women Connected in Wisdom author. And
Yes.
this is because the doors are currently open for volume 3 of Women Connected in Wisdom, Stories and Resources Rooted in the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. And you can see behind me, if you're watching, that's some of our book covers behind
Mhm.
us. But
Mm,
we are excited. We're gathering cohort 3.
yeah, we
And
are.
our authors, when they go through our process, not only are they supported with professional editors and proofreading and all the things, but also we walk you through how to take this work and become a speaker and how do you promote your book and how do you use it if you want it to open doors to different to speaking at conferences or doing workshops or because Shannon and I have loved that part of our work
Yeah, we have.
we like to talk to people for free but really if you pay us it's
I love
even
that.
woo
Yep. I love that part.
woo
Yeah.
right
And again,
so
if you have a resource that people already pay you for, again, your
yeah.
story is amazing and it's unique, and we would love to share it. And that resource that makes it so that you don't always have to be the person people go to. Again, like Sanya and her husband, you can write the book, you can have the workbook, and we're walking through all of that because it's a whole thing. And if you're in a season of grief, you feel like after grief, it might be difficult to do it by yourself, and you don't have to.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah,
It's good stuff. So come join
yeah,
us.
it
And if
is.
you join us for the Zoom call, there's no obligation, y'all. You just get to
No.
ask questions, hear what we're up
Yeah.
to, and be a part of the community.
Yeah, and don't be scared to ask questions. We know you have a question. And you
Mhm.
might be in your 70s and you can still have a question. You
Right.
might be in your 80s and you still have a
We have
question, and we're
authors
here to
from
answer.
20 to 80
Yeah, we do.
and all different backgrounds, all yeah, that's part of our joy of our community is how diverse it is and how much experience and wisdom lives in our
Yeah.
community. So,
And the only way to get that is by asking questions and remembering when we start talking that those are some of the things we have in common. So it can feel daunting if you're by yourself, but come register for the Zoom and check us out if you're interested or you're itching to write and you've been putting it off. Come check us out and let's see if we're a good fit. But we'll
I
be
need to
here
put that in the
live.
show notes too. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we got you guys.
Okay.
No stress, no worries. Akuna Matata. But we'll be here live at 5 the next time, the same time next week. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you soon.